So the founders decided to take a gamble, and they called it a great experiment. They would leave the people broad liberty, they would limit the coercive power of the government, and they would place their trust in the self-discipline and virtue of the American people. In the words of Madison, we have staked our future on the ability of each of us to govern ourselves. And this is really what they meant by self-government. It did not mean primarily the mechanics by which we select a representative legislature. It referred to the capacity of each individual to restrain and govern themselves. But what was the source of this internal controlling power? In a free republic, those restraints could not be handed down from above by philosopher kings. Instead, social order must flow up from the people themselves, freely obeying the dictates of inwardly possessed and commonly shared moral values. And to control willful human beings with an infinite capacity to rationalize, those moral values must rest on authority independent of men's wills. They must flow from the transcendent supreme being. In short, in the framers' view, free government was only suitable and sustainable for a religious people, a people who recognized that there was a transcendent moral order antecedent to both the state and to man-made laws, and had the discipline to control themselves according to those enduring principles. As John Adams put it, we have no government armed with the power which is capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion.
Imagine Barr having the effrontery to quote John Adams, that moral, upstanding paragon married to Abigail Adams, both of which who wrote letters to Jefferson upbraiding him for owning slaves, for raping his slave girl and making her, at age 14, his mistress and pregnant. Imagine Barr standing up here and talking about our founders as moral paragons who counted on religion when the deeply religious South, in every plantation, the master of the house was raping children and having babies of mixed race to his slaves and then selling them on. His wife was putting up with this as part of traditional Christian morality. Imagine Barr harking back to the age in which we talked about the freedom of the individual, theoretically on paper, while enslaving people, while massacring Native Americans, and holding this era up as one we should return to: mass murder and genocide, slavery. Imagine the hypocrisy of someone who serves President Trump talking about a morality that is resting on a religion where Trump is being blessed by the con artists, evangelical leaders like Jerry Falwell Jr., Ralph Reed, Billy Graham's son, Franklin Graham, and others who have latched onto him as an access to power, Dr. Robert Jeffress from Dallas First Baptist, all of whom talk about Trump in terms of him being sent to lead by God. Well, if that's God's leadership, then God is Satan. And when Barr talks about his favorite era of American history and the paragons of morality and righteousness based on Christianity, traditional Christianity, those traditional Christians were the slaveholders. They were raping children on plantations. If this is the era we are to return to, then indeed let us make a fascist salute and move on with the liquidation of brown people, the re-enslavement of the blacks. Or maybe we should just betray the Kurds and the Christians, the Syriac Christians, Barr's fellow Roman Catholics in northern Syria, to a Kurdish who were defended by the Kurds, to the Turkish Islamist radical Erdogan, because the paragon of Christian morality has a real estate deal with them. That's the world Barr's actually describing. And to drag John Adams into it makes me physically, violently feel ill. Of all people, Adams, who stood up against those of his own moment in time who were slaveholders. Abigail Adams, who was incensed at what was going on in the South and felt such deep pain within her and spoke out.